Take a quick look at the layers palette in Photoshop. We can find that perhaps on the right hand side where our palettes are all located by clicking on the icon for layers. Or, of course, our window menu always has all of our palettes and panels available to us. So I'm going to open that layers palette. I'm going to grab the tab and pull it off just so that I have it available over here. As you can see in this document, we have two layers. We have the background, and if I hit the eyeball, it's going to turn it off and on. If I'd like to make a new layer, all I have to do is hit the little icon down on the bottom of my layer palette here that says, it's the little plus icon, and when I hover over it, it tells me what it's called. So when I click on it, I get my new layer. If I want to get rid of a layer, all I have to do is hit the trash can. Yes, I in fact want to get rid of that. So that's pretty easy stuff to do. I'm going to add that layer back in. And I just want to bring to your attention that when you use the layer palette, let's say that I want to put a color in here. I'm going to do a little bit of a brighter color, so hopefully you can see this. Click OK. Again, that's my foreground. And I have my paint bucket selected, so if I single click, that fills in the entire layer. That goes back to each pixel touching each other, and so like that's the entire layer that's been filled in. If I go and choose my selection tool, sorry, my move tool is what the little crosshair is called. If I go and grab that, I could click to drag to move that green square that I made. I can resize it. I can rotate it if I need to. And then I just apply it by clicking back on that move tool again. So now that I've got that there, we're going back to the layer palette. I can click and drag to move that to change the order. And you can see that our person here stands out just a little bit more. Let's zoom in a little bit so that perhaps you can see what's happening here. I can also, on my layer palette, maybe I want to be able to see through this green layer a little bit. I can make changes with my opacity here. So I can reduce that opacity so that I can see through it. I could leave that opacity up if I wanted to, and I can choose normal. And instead of using normal, I could choose any one of these different options here. And as I hover over them, this is a newer feature. It actually shows you how it applies to the background or to the image that's underneath it. So I'm just going to choose overlay, and you can see what happens when I drag this back above. Now it's interacting with both layers below it. We can always go back and change that, but these are our two biggest things that we would use on here. The last thing that I want to share with you, and I'm not sure how well this is going to show up, hopefully it does, but the effects here, similar to having effects in Illustrator, these are actually called layer styles in Photoshop. And what's nice about these is when we click on these, we have all of these basic options here. So if I choose to add an outer glow around this character, I'm going to slide this. My window's not very big here. Hopefully, no. Let's try this. I'll make some changes and then see if I can hide this and show. Actually, I know how I can do it. All right, so I can, on my layer style here, try messing around with the outer glow. Leave my blend mode on normal. I'm going to, its preview is turned on. And I'm going to increase this opacity here. And you can start to see it show up down here on her legs a little bit. I can change the spread for how much this shows up. And I can also change the size so we can start to see it really show up around her. There's lots of things that we can do in here. I could add a stroke, and whenever I click on this layer, it's going to go to that. So there's a lot of things that we can manipulate and change in here, and we can apply layer styles or effects to text as well as any shape or object that we've created. So there's a lot of things to take a look at in here, and I'm not going to go through all of them. It's not very pretty if you turn on all of these things. It gets a little bit crazy, especially if you try to put them all on text. That's turning them all on. Obviously, that's not really something that helps us out with that image there. So those are your layer styles. I can hit OK. And I want to point out, once we go back to look at our layer panel, we have everything show up here. So if I want to turn off just parts to see if I can get things to show up a little bit better, I am able to do that. So that is your layer palette. We're going to hold off on these guys for now. We will get to those, but those are a little more advanced.